Welcome to the finals of the Chatham Cup. I'm Patty Hogan along with Steve Sutter to get things going here. The Chatham Cup is an amazing event created 6 years ago. And before we introduce you to the players, we need a little moment. A great friend of the paddle community died in a tragic accident. And Steve, it's with a heavy heart that we all gather here this evening. Two of our friend Mike's daughters are here. And Steve, why don't you talk a little bit about how important your buddy's presence was in the Chatham community for the sport and growth of platform tennis?
Oh, thank you, Patty. Can everybody hear me?
They can hear you.
Oh, great. Thank you. Thank you, Patty. And thank you for those nice, kind words. Yeah, Mike Pacquiao was it was an amazing individual. He's we've coined a phrase now, be like Mike, and what that means is Mike would love to play paddle. I've seen him play when he was hitting into the net over and over and over and over again to just crushing backhand drives and really becoming a great player. But Mike would play with anybody, and he always had positive words with his partners, with his opponents, and he was just a joy to play with, play against. It's funny. A couple quick things about Mike. I found out that Mike would play 3 times in a day at all 3 different clubs. So at Fairmont, Fish and Game, and at our club at Minnesink, and which was funny and surprising, but then it really didn't. And then in Mike's passing, a lot of people reached out to me and how they could contribute. And one woman from another club talked to me. It's like, hey, we had this kind of ad hoc mixed tournament, and we'd like to donate proceeds. I'm like, well, of course you did. Like, Mike knows all the women as well. Like, he played with anybody.
Yeah, Mike was, he was the fabric. Like, when his loss is so tragic to the entire Chatham community, but every paddle player in New Jersey, Steve, we have the love for platform tennis. We are inclusive in New Jersey. Every program helps every other program grow. And you take someone like Mike, and he was such a force. He was a pleasure for me to have known him, honored to have known him. He ran a great fundraiser for Chatham High School, the only varsity sport, the varsity paddle team in the country.
Yep.
And I remember getting to know Mike through that event, and he just would play with anybody, any day of the week, any time of day. Dad to 4 fabulous kids, his wife,
Yes.
Kathy, our thoughts are with them. And Steve, real quickly, before we tell you about our event tonight, there are some funds that are going to be set up for some ongoing support for the family, and we'll be able to put that out in the community more. But do you want to just give us a heads up about what you guys are planning to do in the future for Mike's family?
Yeah, well, thank you again, Patty. So really kudos to Sean Curry and Dave Miller, who set up a Pacquiao Trust Fund that has been really well received. And one of the nice things about living in Chatham is it's such a giving community, and people have been really generously donating. We're going to continue to, wrap our Chatham blanket with the Pacquiao family, and we are planning on several fundraisers. I believe Mike grew up in Maplewood, and the Maplewood crew is doing a golf tournament in August, from my understanding. And I've connected with several really great guys in all 3 clubs, Fish and Game, Minnesink, and Fairmont, and we're going to organize a paddle tournament in the fall, kind of like a warm-up before the interclub season starts. Just another way of getting together and raising some funds for the family.
Well, Steve, you guys are amazing, and I love the word you just said, the blanket. You're providing a blanket and a comfort for this family, and they are loved. And, meeting his 2 daughters tonight, so poignant for me, and just talking about this is difficult. So we wanted to honor Mike's memory as we kick off the Chatham Club, the Chatham Cup, 2022 Chatham Cup. So we're going to change gears now, Steve. So can you introduce the players on the court? This is the B division of, I think there were 8 divisions for the Chatham Cup. So I got some intel this afternoon, Steve. So I'll help with some of the intel. This event has had over 128 players participate in the past. COVID knocked it out a little bit, but we're back. We're rolling. We had 96 players this year. We will get Noe Pond back in the mix next year, the 4 clubs.
That's right.
The 4 Chathams. Always extend their paddle season. This is a great thing for paddle communities who want to keep everybody going and at all levels.
My joint's not happy, by the way, but yes.
So this is a very flexible league that continues on once the traditional leagues end in New Jersey. And we're off here for, I believe this is the B division, and this is one of the finals. And so... Oh, and one thing, this is a Don Kirk production here tonight. We thank Don for coming to Fairmont, and to our host pro, Blake Anderson. The whole Fairmont club is doing a great job in hosting this event, and as the night goes on, it's going to get loud. It's going to be crazy here.
Awesome.
It's going to be a great celebration as well as an honoring of Mike, and you'll see Mike Pacquiao's initials on each of the courts that you'll see streamed. That's the MP at the net. So
Fantastic.
he's going to be in our thoughts always. And so, Steve, who do you know of these players? Who have you played against? Oh, I think you might know that guy in the ad court.
I do. Yeah, Mark's a great player. It's funny when you talk about Mike. I've played with Mark and Mike often this year and really enjoyed it. Mark is a great, consistent player with an amazing, what I think is somewhat unconventional drive, but he's so good at it. I would expect a lot of long points on this match.
Okay. And his lefty partner, Mr. Lee's out there, and they're up against Barnes and McLean.
Yeah, Chris McLean is actually a really good player too. He's actually another one of my neighbors. Very concentrated neighborhood of paddle players around here.
Yeah, and this is a great camera angle here. You'll see the background of the beautiful warming hut / pavilion / I have no idea / one of the most beautiful backdrops for paddle. The club's made a huge commitment to platform tennis, adding these courts. They just added a 5th court here. And I've never been to the finals of this event. I've been graciously invited several times, and I was so happy that I could come to town and be here to celebrate this.
And they have a wonderful bar. I'd love to be invited
Oh, my
to that
Lord.
too.
Oh, that goes without saying. So that's Lee serving. Palameni's the righty. Lease is the lefty. We'll get the scoreboard, easy for me to say. That was a nice return to serve. Out of that odd court from McLean. I think he learned everything from his brother-in-law, Ray Crosta. Both these teams are representing Fairmont, I believe. Typically, Noe Pond is in this league, and they will be back in it. Those are the 4 Chatham clubs that are involved in the Chatham Cup.
Thank you, Boxcar, for getting them going again.
There are 15 platform tennis courts between the 4 clubs, all within a couple miles here. This event, the Chatham Cup, was founded in 2016. Dwayne Lapis, Mark Palamini, who's right out here on the stream. If you found if you're a founder, you get to be on live stream at some point, Steve. Alex McDonald, who is the new general manager here at Fairmont, and then the late Mike Pacquiao also was a founder of this event. And it's kind of a perfect mix of rivalry, camaraderie for the players. They're all just part of this community. It's all good fun. There's trash talk going on out there.
Oh, absolutely, yes.
There may be some beer on the sidelines on changeover. I wouldn't be surprised if that happens. The clubs all compete for the ultimate trophy, which is named after one of our community's greatest, Scott Pa Estes. It's the Estes Cup. And Minnesink won the Estes Cup in the first year in 2016. Noe Pond Club won it the next year. Noe Pond defended. Then it went over to Chatham Fish and Game. They had a 3-year run, Steve, from 19, 20, 21. And now here we have it tonight. We don't have Noe Pond for this year, but there's been a change in ownership. They'll be back and involved next year. And this is a great volunteer effort from all these guys who found this, and of course the pros. Some of the pros in the community, some of our community's great players. Scott Estes, such a force. Blake, who is our tournament host here. Drew Broderick, Steve DeRose, John Lubau, Oleg Teodine, Jill Fair, Cindy Ross, and Jeff Deal.
Patty, you have to mention the fact that Minnesink won the first cup. Please, that's my
Minnesink. I mean, there can only be the. Everyone knows who won it the first time.
I can't be on air without saying that.
That's right. So we'll get you a score when we figure it out. We letting these guys get into the flow here a little bit. The divisions are set up by clubs and by PTI, Steve. So the whole idea is that you have real competitive matches out there, and you can see with all these players, they've got some different things than you've seen from some of the highest level players in the sport.
Absolutely.
But these guys, what you'll see is they've all got their go-to shots. Like, they do something really well, and that's what has gotten them to this point in their paddle. And you may not see the variety of the overheads, but you can see they have game. They're pretty disciplined. And no one wants to screw up on the live stream, Steve. And that's a great thing about playing this sport. Like, right here, this means a lot. Even though this is, the second or third game, everybody's dialed in here. This is big.
Yep.
They want bragging rights. I mean, when you go around town, you go into ShopRite right down Chumpike,
Yes.
These guys want the cup.
There's been a lot of joying back and forth leading up to these matches, for sure. I was at Fish and Game last night, and we watched a lot of really good paddle just leading up to it. So people are really jazzed to get to these finals and make it to your telecast, Patty.
Well, Steve, we're so happy you joined me in the booth here. We're going to have some, besides you, a big celebrity in the Chatham community, we'll have some other people who will come on the air and talk some paddle. We'll get Blake Anderson, Greg Morgan, who's pro over at Beacon, and we'll just get some different people to come in and just offer some different things. But this is a great opportunity, and it is warm out here, Steve. Spring finally broke in Jersey, and we went from 40 freezing rain to all of a sudden 80 degrees.
Feels good.
Everybody's in shorts, enjoying themselves, and it's this is a great backdrop, as you pointed out. That bar at Fairmont inside here, it rivals Exmoor out in Chicago. They just hosted the team nationals, the women's team's nationals, and I was listening to the Inside the Wires podcast with Noah and Ben recently, and they were talking about the Exmoor bar. But Fairmont is right there. They've done a beautiful job here at this club.
You can tell they put a lot of thought into it, for sure.
Yep. And Steve, you'll see the chalk lines on the court. The pickle is growing as well, and the advantage of having paddle courts, it's the exact same playing as the court dimensions as pickleball. It's not exact. The net's a little bit different, but you just add two lines, you've got another sport. It's growing here. It's growing everywhere around the country, and it's taking off in Chatham as well.
Oh yeah, I love it.
And it's great. And what it's all about, Steve, is we're really here. This is like a gathering of friends. It's like you walk out there, and all these people that I see on and off over all the years I've been involved in Jersey paddle, everybody's smiling, everybody's psyched to be a part of it. It's just the camaraderie that platform tennis brings people together. And I was driving down from Lake George yesterday thinking about Mike and his family, and that I wanted to get you on the air just to talk about it a little bit. And I was thinking about, the greatest thing that platform tennis has given all of us are all our friends. It's given, the sport is the vehicle for which we participate and get to know each other. But, I was thinking it is so easy to make friends as an adult if you play the sport of platform tennis.
Well said. You're absolutely right. And I met a lot of people through Mike. And I continue to meet a lot of people through the Chatham Cup, too, because it's so big. Right, and there's always a beer at the end of every match.
There's always a beer, and that's the thing, the camaraderie, and you walk on the court strangers, and you end up friends, and
Absolutely.
it's kind of like when you play golf. You're, the four of you get out there, and by the end of 18 holes, you know whether you have a new friend or not, or you may be like, I'm busy next Tuesday, but paddle, it is so easy, and it's such an inclusive sport by nature, and having the commitment from the community and the pros to run things like this, it just can include so many people. And if you want to get involved, you reach out to the pros. There's courts everywhere in the surrounding community. You do have to be a member of one of the Chatham clubs for this particular, the Chatham Cup, obviously. But the beauty of paddle in New Jersey is there's so many different places to play, and as the sport continues to just explode, everybody's kind of figuring out what we knew a long time ago in Jersey. And, we hit it out of the park with juniors here, Steve, as you know, and it's another area where Mike ran a fundraiser when we started the high school team, and Chatham has the only varsity team in the country, and Mike was a great force in fundraising for that. APTA is the American Platform Tennis Association is holding their annual meetings this weekend here, and I just was inside for a second of that. Tuna Cavana, Amin Kaduri, and Sheedy, they're hitting it out of the park. Isabel Caban, all the Nindy Pike, everybody who works for the APTA. It's just, and their efforts helping to line up all of the teams for this, I think also was a critical piece of it. Thanks to Nancy Biggs with Tennis Scores. Amin, that really helped. It's really helping competitions now, Steve, because it's getting the right levels competing against each other.
Yes.
And some people say, I always wanted the chance to play against Johan or Drew or something. Well, but it's going to be 12 minutes. Come play against your friends. and look at this. Here's Mark, one of our founders of the Chatham Cup, sipping a beer. Right. He's the quality control guy. He told me I can make up anything I want to say about him tonight.
That's great.
So I'll start pretty soon. I might need to have a beer to make up, to bring my A game on it.
Well, Patty, if I could, I watched the match last night, and it was Division 7, and it was really good paddle, and it was heated competition. It was really great to watch, and that's the nice thing about the Chatham Cup is that every level can compete at a high intense.
I think Mark's team just got their butts kicked. I think I need to go out and give him some coaching. If the score was right. Was the score right? Was it really 6-0? I think there should be coaching. Let me run out, Steve, and go talk to Mark. We just got a wing for the camera. That's classic. All right, so that was a fast first set. But, this is the B division, but clearly Barnes and McLean have brought their A game tonight, Steve. So that's Barnes serving. Many's hitting that return. I don't think he was aiming for the back screen.
I
think he should go back to lobbing. But my point earlier was that, there's all different ways that you play the sport, and you got to figure out, and if you lose the set 6-0, you have to keep more balls in play.
Yes.
There are challenges when you get out here. It's an adjustment into, playing into the warmer weather. I was going to get into that a little bit with some of the teaching pros in the area. But I think Mark might like lobbing more than driving, but he's going to have to lob a little bit higher and a little bit deeper to be effective here, because Barnes and McLean they look like they're almost way too comfortable here.
Right.
We like to see relaxed dispositions on the paddle court. They're almost too relaxed. All right, that was a good cover from Palomini right there, and the ball shot out past Lees. That's a better lob, Steve. So if you hit a good lob and you back the guy up beyond the service line, that's where it's a good time to maybe look to hit a little bit of an offensive shot. If you just lob all day, it doesn't get you anywhere necessarily. Clean's got a sweet overhead. I do think he learned that either from his brother-in-law, Ray, or maybe his wife, Joanne.
Done your research, Pat.
Totally. Yeah, and you know, you just can't miss return of serves when you're trying to claw your way back into the set, you know, into the match. You know, Lisa and Pellemeni, they're down 7-0 right now. They're going to have to do something. We might have to call a timeout, Steve. So 0-1.
Like need a patty lesson.
So Steve, ready? All right, let's take a bet. What do you think? $5. How many games does it take for Lisa and Pellemeni to win a game? Pellemeni to win a game. I think those guys on the other side look like they got a lot going on. This is going to be rough. I'm going to say it's going to go 8 games before they get a game. Because I think they're going to. I don't know. I just don't think they put enough return of serves in play, and those guys just look like they're on cruise control.
Body language not good. But I'm rooting for them, though.
Well, I am so pulling for them. You're not taking that $5 bet, I noticed. It's fine. See if I care. Oh boy. So, I think it's 2-0, but I love that the scoreboard gave them a game point on that screwed up coverage where they both went for the ball and hit each other's paddle. That's what happens when lefty-righties play and they don't call the ball, Steve.
You're right.
Steve, I love the camera angle. Look at the backdrop here. It almost looks like a movie set. It's so green back there.
It is a pretty day. No, this is a great place to play.
Uh-oh. I may change my $5 bet from 8 to 9. Steve, you came out of the city early to get here in time for this?
I did. Ooh, that's a nice spin.
And I love the rip right there. That was the right shot. Really good serve, but then he followed the play. Hit a beautiful return, just missed. I mean, he made the right choice. He had to go for that. And when you're down, when you get an offensive opportunity, you got to go for it.
Yep.
So I believe it's 9-0. No. For the scoreboard out there, that's 6-0, 3-0. I think. Steve, thanks for joining us. You got to go take care of business out there. Send in my next celebrity commentator.
Absolutely, will do. Patty, thank you so much.
Thanks, Steve. So the Chatham Cup league play here went on for, I think, about 8 weeks, and these guys have total flexibility. They're slotted into divisions of play. They get a schedule that Blake Anderson and a couple other of the guys who run the show set up at the beginning of this season. And that follows the New Jersey Men's League. It follows the Winter League. And then just when you think it's springtime and you're getting ready for golf, these guys say, no, we're not going to hit the clubs yet, not going to hit the links. We want to keep playing paddle, so these guys have a great time. And it's a great way for clubs and communities to grow paddle, to extend your seasons. Start early, summer play, spring play. These guys don't care. They just want to play paddle. Our next celebrity who's joining us tonight is none other than Hall of Famer Bobo Delaney. Bobo, welcome back from Bermuda.
All right. What's going on?
So, Bobo, welcome. Welcome
right.
back to the announcing booth. Bobo
All right, glad to be here.
Bobo made her debut at Nationals this year. Called a great match, Bobo. I listened to you on that. And you were super nice to jump off the plane from Newark Airport and come over here.
You got a nice night for this.
Oh,
Good crowd,
What a nice night.
good weather.
Do you know these guys, Bobo?
I think I know.
I just didn't know if you personally.
I it's Palomeni out there, right?
Yeah, that totally. There's Mark in the blue shirt. If the score,
They're
if the
losing right
scoreboard,
now, right?
They're getting crushed. I think it was 9-0, Bobo.
I saw it was 6-love a minute ago.
Polomeni and Lees.
Okay.
And then we'll get the names of the guys on the other side. McLean.
Okay, and this is Fairmount versus Fairmount, right?
This is Fairmount first. Yes.
Right, Division 2.
Yep. I think it's the B division. And
Got the lefty-righty.
Steve was in before, and we kind of went through the creation of the Chatham Cup. Bobo, you're a huge force in the Chatham and New Jersey and national community, teaching pro for over...
Too long. Just too long.
We're going decades deep here in the
Yeah.
teaching pro. And
All right.
Bobo, this is great timing because we're joined by another celebrity.
All right.
Greg
we got
Morgan.
a full house here.
Greg, why don't you grab a chair? Greg is our APTA board rep, doing a great job with the juniors. Greg's pro over at Beacon Hill. Bobo was the pro everywhere.
Yeah, I think everywhere but Fairmount.
Was there a club you missed, Bobo?
I think Fairmount.
Yeah, me too. That was the only one I missed too.
Well, they didn't have paddle back in the day.
Right, if
as
they
I
had-
recall, right?
Cheers, Bobo.
As I recall.
Cheers, Greg.
Cheers, guys. Thanks for having me.
So, Greg, do you know these guys? Because it's a lopsided match, and Bobo and Greg, you see, and Mike Pacquiao's honor, the MP at the net. Two of Mike's kids are here tonight, and we spoke about the amazing community support his family is getting, and how tragic, what a devastating loss for the paddle community, every community crushed by it. So we started on the air with that, and now we're going to paddle and talk. You guys can chime in anything you want to say about Chatham paddle.
Yeah, Chatham. It's actually where I started playing paddle. I was working teaching tennis over at Minnesink a long time ago, and Mike Pacquiao and a bunch of the guys there pulled me in to start showing me the game. And so I also linked up with you, Patty, and the Broderick brothers.
Oh yeah.
To get a little schooling, and it's amazing. I was just talking to one of our new APTA board members, Ben McKnight, about how many clubs are in Chatham, and the fact that they can put this event on with only guys from here is really cool. Not a lot of places could do that.
How many men are in the whole program of the Chatham Cup?
The Chatham Cup, well,
Roughly.
it used to be 128, and then with COVID, the numbers have gone down. 96, I think, last year, and 96 this year. But we lost Noe Pond, but they'll
Right,
get
but
Noe.
they'll be back.
Noe
They'll
will
be
be
back.
back.
They'll be back,
So then
exactly.
they'll get back to 128.
Yeah, that's amazing. A little drop shot there.
They got to find some magic here. They got on the board. I made a $5 bet. I thought they wouldn't get on the board till 8 game total. So I don't know. We might need a judgment call, Greg, who wins the 5. Although Steve wouldn't take my bet.
Oh my goodness.
Well, these guys must know each other's games since they're at the same club.
They all
So
know
they
each
kind of
other.
know everybody's weaknesses. Oh, he didn't have his backhand volley ready there.
He's not ready
Just
for that.
saying.
Well, there was an earlier point where the lefty-righty in the middle, you guys,
Yeah, got to set that paddle.
they clashed. They crashed.
Good low return. Just excited about it.
And so what I was saying, a lot of, we're used to oftentimes to the live stream where you see some of the most amazingly talented players our sport has to offer. But you watch out here, and everybody's got their strength in their game. everybody plays the game. There's so many different ways that you can play paddle. But, there's some fundamental things that obviously you guys see as teaching pros all the time. Right there, Mark didn't follow the ball, found the spot, match point.
Yeah, it seemed like their volleys were a little suspect there on the Palomeni-Lease team. They had good returns. The other team had good pressure with the low balls, and they had to set their paddles a little bit earlier.
Well, maybe that wasn't the match. Maybe that was just...
All right, maybe is this tie break, maybe? Or they're just playing for fun, maybe?
I don't know.
That's 6-2, right? That's set. So I think they're just keep
it was
playing.
6-0, 6-2.
Yeah.
Maybe. Okay. Well, we may have the score wrong.
All right.
So
well, maybe it's.
So you know what? This is the great thing about paddle in Chatham. No one wants a match to end. You can get your ass kicked 6-0, 6-2. And these guys want to still keep going because these are their buds out here. They're on the live streaming. They wanted to stay on air for at least
They're not leaving.
22 minutes. Okay. That was host pro, Blake Anderson. We'll get him on the air, possibly.
The camera work is good here. It's very clear. They're getting all 4 players in.
So this is Don
It's
Kirk.
really, yeah. Blake was just telling me
Yep, and
he seemed to have it really figured out.
it looks fake, the backdrop.
Yep.
I mean, that's how HD clear this is.
It's really clear.
So, Greg and Bobo, why don't we just talk paddle generally here a little bit? I think since these guys are playing for fun, you guys have been huge forces in the growth, and I'm a believer. I always say you need great pros who are enthusiastic, passionate, and I think you need pros who are going to be able to include all levels of play. And you look out here, and what's the biggest weapon someone has out here? Maybe consistency.
I say keeping that ball on the court.
When you don't think about that, like, what are we going to work on today? And everybody's like, oh, I want Johan's overhead. I want Drew's drop cutter. I want Juan's backhand. How about you keep the ball in the blue? Bobo, you're a big fan of blue is good, green not so good?
Right. Basics, a lot of basics. Middle solves the riddle.
Yeah, that's right. I mean, even at the top.
Shout out to Rod Workman.
Top level, you're starting to see a little more offense, I think, with the top guys. But at the end of the day, it still really comes down to the team that can be more steady, keep it in, and like we just saw there, like weather the storm with the volleys, especially. I find that teaching. That's where most of our players tend to lose points is on volleys up the net, just not being set, not being low, not being on their backhand.
Greg, I think, and I think you're spot on with that. And if anybody's ever seen Bobo play, I mean, I played Bobo a million matches. Bobo, you don't need any side back screen warm-ups in this match.
No.
But, and I always joke because we would get out and play with you and it'd be, we've played paddle for 8 hours and we're meeting in the quarters or the semis of a tournament or something. And you would get on the court to warm up and say, can you give me a couple screens? And I'm like, Bobo, you haven't missed one since 74. Why the hell should I give you one here? And I've just played 6 hours.
Well, the key there is you got to get used to the wires. Are they tight? Are they dead? And how's the sun? How's the wind? So that I don't miss one. So I don't miss one.
Exactly, Bobo. And you never miss volleys. You never miss screens. And that's the consistency that we're talking about. And you were an awesome shifter. That 2 times you and I played tournaments, we had a ball, and we were. I just remember playing with you, and I felt like there was this gravitational pull. Like if I was slacking on one point on a shift, you hip checked me over.
Yep.
And I was a pretty good hip checker myself.
That's right.
But we would elbow and hip check, but there was
all about positioning.
Very little room.
It's all about positioning.
Right. So
if you can get into position before your opponent hits the next ball, you got a good chance of playing it safe, clean, without a lot of panic. And the same thing with your lobs. If you're steady in your corners, you can set up the lobs and move the people around and get your opening. You just have to be patient. There we go. You got a little aggressive. I like it, though.
Greg, why don't you talk about the importance of depth on volleys and on overheads, as the net team? Because the way I always looked at this sport, everybody has to serve one. You have to go through your rotation. You have to figure out how to hold serve. and
Yeah.
whatever creative formations you may need, staying back, Australian eye. We see everything at the top level in the sport, which I think is the greatest thing for club players to see, that even though top players might be playing a match, it might be best for them to stay back. Because if they're lacking the ability to consistently hit the depth.
Right. Well, I think
And I would love for you to elaborate on that as it relates to volleys in particular, because you both mentioned the volleys. So, Greg, I would love for you to talk about that.
So when we work on drives, right, with players, because we always say, okay, well, someone's going to hit a serve, start the point with a drive. Everybody feels comfortable driving that ball because the ball's landing in the service box. So when point play starts, we say, okay, now you guys at the net can't hit balls in the service box. You've got to push the ball past the service box, and all of a sudden the drive percentage starts to drop. People aren't as willing to do it. And I think what happens with volleys is they're like too punchy, they react or they reach, and then stuff starts going high and short, and that's where everybody can just tee off on the ball, where the players who can get in position early and get their paddles set when they're there on their backhand can actually hit the ball straight ahead and hit a spot deep on the court in front of them, and they let the ball come to them rather than reach. Like Patty, I remember teaching with you one day, and we were actually talking about lobs, but you made an analogy about fencing, which I thought was funny but made a lot of sense. Where people, in fencing, you're always reaching out to go get somebody, where in paddle we want to wait for the ball to come to us on lobs, on volleys, on all those shots. And the player who can wait longer tends to hit a better volley. And like Bobo said, there's no panic. You're just blocking and you're set. You're letting your body help you hit the ball deep. And the thing to me, it also comes down to shifting, right? You want to be behind the ball. We still see a lot of we at my club at Beacon Hill, we have a few newer high-level tennis players that are starting. And in tennis, you're always going to be trying to be next to the ball as you volley and hit the ball way out in front. And I think the volley is the one thing that the tennis players tend to struggle with the most, as they, also like not trying to play offense on that shot all the time too, treating it like sort of a neutral shot. I think helps them too. But yeah, it's
and I think also just letting that drive present, let the ball present, and then you can volley it more stable, or let it go out, because a lot of people hit out balls because they're anxious and they reach. If you let the ball present in front of you and let it come to you, you can make a better decision as to whether you should hit it or not, and also be able to place it where you want, back to the original hitter generally.
Sure, and Greg, that's great. Thanks for that. And Bobo, going back to my point about you never missing screens and volleys, to me, they're the exact same timing almost, that you have to wait for it. Yeah. And you have to assume a position and then wait for the ball to get to you. And the fencing thing, I just see so many people, and I literally feel like I should bring out, what's it called, like an épée?
Yeah. The jab, yeah.
Are you going to try to pierce the ball as it comes your way, or do you want to volley and you have to wait? And so I think when we talk about different styles of play around the country, I was listening to the Inside the Wires podcast, the #1 podcast for platform tennis in the world. 4 women, including Jane Barra, were talking about how much fun they had out in Chicago at Exmoor Team Nationals. And just they were talking about the different styles of play, and it struck Jane. And they're like, oh my gosh, you're so patient. And Jane's like, and Jane knows that she has a shot clock, that she's willing to play points here to a certain depth into the point, and then her shot clock goes and it's like 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, I got to pull the trigger no matter what. Where, Bubba, you were known because you would just go, you would count to 10, then you would count to 20, and then you would probably count, I played points against you that went over the net 500 times, and you just knew you were not willing to miss. So everybody goes with a style of play that suits their personality, their tactics, and what they bring, their skill set.
Exactly. Play your strengths. Try to expose their weaknesses. And the longer the match goes, usually the more you can discover as to what you need to exploit and what you need to work on as a team to beat the other team. If you watch here a little bit, sometimes Mr. Palomeni has his paddle down when he's at the net. He's watching with it hanging down by his kneecap. And he's not resetting that paddle. Back in the day, there used to be a sticker, paddle up. And it didn't mean let's play paddle. Right. It meant get your paddle up in front of your body when you're at the net. Paddle up.
Right.
So you notice a lot.
Butt cap.
Exactly. If you'll notice, now that he's serving, you'll see a lot of times his paddle's down by his knee, and that creates a lot of missed volleys because the paddle's not ready. See it?
Well, he's got to commit a little bit
and now
more.
He's got it up. Now he's got it up. Now
right.
It's down, now it's down. But I'm just making a point that if you have that paddle set, you're going to be a better volleyer right away.
You know what? I mean,
Pick it up, hold it with your left hand, hold it with your right hand.
Greg, do you have Mark's email so we can email him these tips?
We can definitely.
Because wouldn't that be the greatest
We can
thing? The
definitely make him
commentators say
aware.
tips, say Mark.
Yeah.
Mark's going to call me after this and say, "Why are you bashing me?"
No, we're just pointing out different strengths. Like you see that overhead from McLean there. That's a beautiful overhead. That's probably the purest, like technically sound
Yeah, it's
stroke
like,
that you see of the four players out here.
he's
McLean
hit-
out of these guys does have some variety. You know, he'll hit a roller. He's got some spin. He's going for the nick on
Right,
that shot.
two different overheads right
Yep.
there. Moved his grips a little bit versus maybe Mark plays with the same grip the whole time.
Right.
And he's not committed to having his hands near each other. I always say, get that second hand on your paddle. Whether you let go when you reach or not, that's fine. But you've got to go back, sort of that set position, unless your name sounds like Johan Durant. Because when you're freaking nature, one of the
Right.
greatest of
You
all
can-
times, you can do whatever you want on the paddle court. But if you're not, you've got to figure out,
You got to get the fundamentals.
everyone would like to play like Johan for 5 seconds, which is almost impossible on the court.
Also, like you said, they're not doing any I formation or changing it up at all, which might not be a bad option because these guys have been hitting some pretty good returns.
I think that's
And-
super typical, Bobo, for this level of play, where you'll see them go to the right side, go to the left side. They'll serve from the exact same place every single time. Their serve will land in the exact same place in the box. They won't think about move it to the tee, move it wide, jam the guy in the body if the guy
Well, I think
wants
that's a
to
good
hit.
point. Like, what you'll notice their fix tends to be is to try to hit a better volley if they can't deal with the return. And I think what you're onto is if you change serve, you can get a return that you might be able to deal with. Where these guys, I think, kind of pick the trickiest, the hardest way
Right.
to make the improvement.
And that's why, like, Bobo, if you watch her volley, she'll set up because she serves the ball to a spot that's going to lead the returner to hit the ball within about a 3-foot area, believe it or not. And that's why you watch the higher levels, and we'll see it, in the 8:30 round, where you'll see them waiting for the ball to get to them. They let the ball rebound off the paddle. They use their legs on volleys, like softer hands. And I always think, you guys teach a million lessons, and people are like, what do I have to do to get better? Not 17 things. Pick one.
Right, yeah.
Pick one or two.
Little things can make a huge difference. Positioning on the court, setting up for your return, like you said, coming in with the volley, leading with the backhand, coming in low and stopping and setting and making that first volley conservative and then moving forward and taking it from there. If you can't get through the first return, you're not going anywhere, right?
You see our national champs, New Jersey's very own Sven Ver's Mick Erdoya. Mick
Oh,
plays
we had a
ton.
mover there. He moved on that. That was nice.
He heard you. Did you put that earbud in, Bobo? We should do that on the second match.
See,
How
now he's
fun
that
would
forehand volley.
Yeah,
He's
there's
got
been a
that paddle
couple-
down.
A couple in the last few points have ended on forehand volley miss.
Yeah, so Mick and Sven are national champs, just incredible run at Long Island this year. Following up on their finals last year, going out to Johan and Steven, and they came
That was
through.
in the rain, right?
That was in the rain. but-
Canoe brook in the rain, correct? The year before.
Yeah, we're going to keep it all positive here because it rains on every paddle court I have found.
That's true.
Thanks. So anyway, going back to all positives, this is the positive broadcast. Okay.
I was just trying to remember the
So-
day.
Oh, I remember it well. I spent the weekend under an umbrella.
It was pretty good for a COVID year.
Oh, it was
pretty good.
phenomenal.
That was great.
It was
Yeah,
phenomenal.
I mean,
great.
you guys did a good job pulling that off.
But you can see, like Mick Erdoya, Johan, just arguably two of the best players in our game. They'll hit more forehand volleys than any other guys who are out there. But they get away with it because they can pick and choose, and they are freak of nature athletes, and their anticipation and their hand-eye is just freakish. We can't even, most paddle players can't relate to one shot those guys hit. So that's why they get to do whatever they want because they know what's going to happen next. And their partner knows what's going to happen next.
And, that's the big difference. It's like we want to play like the elite players, but you also have to play within the confines of your abilities and get the basics and get the positioning and then grow from there and then add the fancy stuff. But I think sometimes, people like to play and not think so much. They want to enjoy the exercise and the camaraderie, and they just want to play, and they don't want to overthink it. You have to take a little time if you want to get better, to spend a little time, I think, on thinking about how can we beat this team? What can we do differently and make it like a team sport? That's why I enjoy it.
Yeah.
It's kind of like a team sport. Like, what are we going to do to beat this team? Like an 11-man team versus a 2-man.
Exactly. No, and that's the thing. The tactics and positioning overwhelmingly determine the outcome of these matches versus any highlight reel type of shot that you might have. And even at the highest level, you'll watch exchanges, and it's just incredible. And, I always think, what do you have to do to win a point? Well, the point always ends on some little shot. It rarely ends on one of these outstanding shots, maybe except the cutter overhead, because that's really the only unreturnable ball that someone has in the sport.
Well, I think that's one of the beauties of the game, is the concentration factor and how long these points go on. Because you're engaged the whole time, so you're never bored. And sometimes the old theme about
paddle, Bobo.
I know, the old theme about lobbing a lot of balls is maybe they'll get bored and pull the trigger too soon.
And Bobo, I never minded feeding you after I'd been on the court for 7 hours. There's side back screens you'll notice. Oftentimes Cindy Prendergast hid in the clubhouse until we were mostly through the warm up. She's like, "You got this, Patty." And
That's a nice point.
a lot has been a lot of discussion over the past couple of years in Jersey, everywhere around the country with the PTIs, but it is such a driver. And Greg, you did a phenomenal job running all the tournaments you ran this year, including being the amazing co-chair of Junior Nationals with me as always, and then you taking the lead and just hitting it out of the park with Dave Broderick out at Fiddler's Elbow for the men's team nationals. So awesome. And next year, I think it's going to be even crazier, and people sign up for a team. Bobo and I got the opportunity to play in Regions Cup the day before Nationals this year. We were on a team. Bobo really was in charge of costume design, set, makeup.
Yes. It was huge. It was St. Patty's Day.
Hydration. She really nailed it for our team.
It was a special Thursday.
Cool. Amazing leadership. You demonstrated that
We
day,
had some
Bobo.
age on our team, as I recall. Age and wisdom.
We had a lot of wisdom.
A lot of experience on the paddle court. I
Lot
think
of-
it rained that day, too.
It possibly, I recall that. I think our outfits, our orange and green outfits were running.
Did we have the Centrum? Did we have this? The
Centrum Silver. Robin Fulton came up from the Carolinas and was the Fulton Cup.
That was a big
was
blast from
new
the past.
event,
That
and
was a true legend.
Robin, one of our winningest players ever in the sport, men or women, just had a dynamic playing style. And Bobo, that people say, who hit the first really hard overheads? Was it Uline? Da-da-da-da. I remember playing against Robin and her tagging me with balls.
Yep.
And she would just line up, and if it was a short lob, that ball was hitting her. And that was before they had the rule where if it went to the other side,
That's right.
she who hit it would lose the point.
And back then, the ball was a lot harder,
Yep.
firmer, so it was less bouncy. So it was hard to get it to go that far. I think that's where I learned my digging out of the corners.
You had to if
Was
you
the
played
heavy
against
balls.
Robin. Yeah, that's right.
You had to get really low to get them back, and now it's like
those
bouncy.
Vitter, yeah.
Yeah, a little
now it's
bit
like
more.
a super ball.
Yeah, so now you got to chase them.
Yeah, definitely. Definitely different.
And the old paddles, they weren't as powerful. They were skinny and wooden, as I recall.
I'm glad I didn't play then, Bobo, because my elbow hurts me just looking at those paddles hung on the walls of paddle
Well, they had the
huts.
metal rim, and often people would hit themselves in the head with the follow-through and crack their head open. That happened to my mom a couple times. People would follow through, boom.
And
Wasn't pretty.
on a serious
She had a
note,
tough day.
Bobo, you bring up your mom, a great force in her game, and a shout-out loss of your dad recently. He was one and only Tom Slim. I have visuals of your dad, Bobo, that just make me crack up. It's such a difficult time for you right now dealing with all this, and you have the support of all your friends. And
Yeah.
Tom, they broke the mold when they created Tom Mangan on the planet.
That's right.
But
He
I
had a good-
remember the tights, the shorts going into the classes, the the classes down the street at the Chatham Club or over at the Short Hills Club.
Yes, he was a gym guy.
He was a gym guy. He was really on the forefront of fitness and just really fine-tune his body for peak performance at all time.
Yep. He had a good 92 years.
And seriously,
the best was, after every match, he would report back and tell me what we could have done better. He knew it all.
He knew everything.
He had a good head on his shoulder with strategy.
He had all the answers. Mm-hmm. He was a cheerleader for me, Bubbo. If you were not opposite me, he gave me a lot of support.
Yeah, no, he was a great
But if
fan.
I was playing you, talk to the hand. Don't come near me. Yeah. Bobo, it's Bobo time.
He was a master strategist. I think I learned a lot of strategy from him.
More than from your brother Tim?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, because he always was like trying to find a way. Always trying to find a way. In most things in life. Just cutting some corners.
He could outthink most.
Yeah. How can I beat the system? Master.
He could scramble.
So there you go. It's a perfect cane for that.
Yeah, paddle was a great sport for him. It just brought all the qualities which he brought to the table.
Yep.
Inside the cage.
I wish we had some pictures of those outfits back in the 70s. They were classic.
Do you have crayons? Because I think I could draw right now.
There was some nice.
mean,
polyester was in that.
Polyester, the tube socks.
Yeah.
I mean, it was quite a visual when he got out of that car and kind of sauntered over into those fitness classes. And I'd always joke with Dave Broderick. I'm like, just think if Tom didn't work out.
Exactly, because he loved his ice cream.
Oh, he did. Kudos to Ann Waldron, who's taken over for Jerry Vian, heading up the live streaming. She's making sure all the commentators are happy, hydrated, talking the paddle love here in Chatham.
There's a shot of the crowd. Lots of good support here.
Oh, it's only going to build
Beautiful
as
night.
the night goes on, Bobo. So I think that...
What's the next matchup on the stadium court here?
Well, we're going to find out soon. I think maybe Stu Garrett's involved. Greg, hopefully we'll know first and last names of the guys.
Do we know the clubs?
For this round. Well, we have strong presence from Fairmont.
Oh, that's good.
And Marion Cunningham's PT scorer right there on display,
yeah.
Bobo.
Oh, those are great.
You can't cheat. I mean, if your opponent chooses those, you're in trouble. You cannot make up that you don't know the score.
Got to use them, though. You got to use them.
You got to use them.
Some people get a little lazy.
Yeah, they do. Yeah. They do.
That is always challenging, remembering the game score.
Well, that's
the
the thing,
individual
Bobo.
score. It's tough. You concentrate.
Right. When you play
500
points,
lobs.
500 shots over the net. That's the problem. So, sure. So, Don Kerr Productions wants to cut us off. I think you guys hit it out of the park. But on that note, I think we'll go to the bar and make sure that we're
Commercial
hydrated
break.
for the next match, you guys.
Halftime
Show, and we're off, Don.
Halftime show. Do we have any dancers?
Soon. It's us, Bobo.